It doesn't always.
No, it doesn't.
And there's no error, so that's great. All right, I'm going to give everybody just a second so it loads up, and then I'll do some introductions.
Sure.
All right. All right, it looks like we're good to go. All right, so I'm Kristen with Bookish Pen Pals, and I'm here with Z.S Diamanti, Zach, who I found on TikTok, actually. I'm a huge book talker follower, only I don't do a whole lot of my own book talks. um, but I'm a huge fan of indie authors, and you just happened to come up in my TikTok one day, and I was like, epic fantasy is my thing, especially old school fantasy, and I'm a
Yes.
sucker for signed editions. So I watched you do your like wrapping of the books and the signing and all that, and I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm getting that.
Yeah.
So that's how I found you, which is really cool. And then Stone and Sky came, and I was intrigued from the get go, and I took my time reading it. And so tell our members a little bit about Stone and Sky, because I've read it and I've loved it. Um, but I don't know that a whole lot of our members have.
Sure, yeah. So I'm Zach, Z.S Diamanti, like she said, and this is the first book in my Stone and Sky series. I always have one around. This is my one that gets beat up because it gets used in all my videos and stuff. So so this is the one that you see in all the videos. But Stone and Sky is a classic style epic fantasy adventure. And it starts out with Orin, who is a member of the Griffin Guard, and the honorable, fabled Griffin Guard of Whitestone, and his entire squadron is killed in a wyvern riding orc raid. And he's the only survivor. And so what ends up happening is a huntsman's family, they find him, they recover him, they help heal him, and then they put together a ragtag crew to try and get him home and get him back to the fight. Along the way, they find out the orcs of Drelek actually have a secret weapon that they knew nothing about. And so now the race is on, and they go on this wild side adventure that they never expected they were going to take, just trying to get back to Whitestone to warn the Griffin Guard about this crazy secret weapon. Meanwhile, we've got a evil sorcerer orc from across the sea who's causing all sorts of havoc.
And all these fabulous like magical artifacts and abilities for people and all these fabulous creatures. I even went back at a few points and was like, wait a minute, I have to go back and I have to reread that part, because I'm pretty sure like it really is like old school fantasy, like Lord of
Yeah.
the Rings type of adventure, which I really loved.
Mhm.
um it was striking to start off with like this first chapter when you meet the main character and his whole entire squadron, like everybody's gone but him, and he's injured,
Mhm.
and he winds up in this stranger's house, and how caring the characters are. But like, you killed off everybody he knew right from the get-go, like
Right, right. I mean, I created this fantasy world with all these great flying creatures because that was the coolest idea. I just was thinking, man, how cool would it be to have all these flying creatures? Like the humans would ride griffins, and the elves would ride pegasi, and the orcs would ride wyverns, and then I'll create this panther-like creature that flies for the dwarves. And I thought that was the coolest idea. But then I was like, okay, but how do I have a classic style fantasy adventure if he could just
right.
jump back on his griffin and fly home? That's not going to work. So everybody's got to die.
Exactly. And I was like, where did that come from? Like right out the gate, you know? And I'm like, well, now what is he gonna do? No Griffin, which by the way, like as soon as I saw the whole like blurb about it, like I don't know too many fantasies that have a Griffin in them.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
and I love fantasy and I know there's so many good ones out there, you know, but I'm like, oh, I mean, he's on the cover on a griffin. Like, that's so cool, you know? And I mean, there's dragons and everything right now.
Sure,
And
of
so to
course.
see a griffin in the main character, like flying on one, is pretty cool. So let's talk about how was Stone and Sky born? Like, where did the
Yeah.
idea come from? You know, I've done a little bit of background kind of digging on you.
Yeah,
I didn't
sure.
find a lot other than that you're a military veteran, and I want to thank
Yeah.
you for your service too.
Thank
Because
you.
as I was thinking about, the battle scenes and those kinds of things, were some of the ideas like from that, or have you always thought about fantasy, like where to come from?
Sure, yeah. Funny enough, I actually started really writing and taking writing more seriously after my time in Afghanistan. And I came
Mm.
home and I needed a different creative outlet. I've always drawn my entire life, played music, those kinds of things. I've always been a creative person. But when I came back from Afghanistan, you experience different things and it changes the way you see things. And so I came
Yeah.
back and I needed a different outlet, something that wasn't what I did before. And so I started writing, and I wrote all sorts of different things: horror short stories and
Right.
sci-fi short stories, and literary fiction and literary nonfiction, and even poetry. So I've
Yeah.
been around the block a lot on the short fiction, but over the last couple of years, I was like, I really want to write these books. My first favorite book ever was The Hobbit, and maybe still my favorite book ever. And
Same. I same.
just classic, wonderful, joyful, wild
Yeah.
adventure with magic.
Yeah.
And so I always wanted to write a classic style epic fantasy adventure. And I started thinking about what I thought would be cool. And I was actually a military kid as well. My dad was Air
Oh.
Force, and so I spent my entire life around military aircraft, my
Ah.
entire life. And so I thought, how cool would it be to incorporate some like military tactics with
Right.
flying creatures in a world where every different race has their own flying military as well.
Yeah.
That's really where it was born. And then obviously I had to kill everybody off in order to do
in,
have
in
an
order
epic
to find them
fantasy
all.
adventure. Right. It's
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I love that though. And the thing that's so unique about your series too is this is really the book that I saw first. I
yeah,
was like,
sure.
"Wait a minute, wait, what is this?"
Yeah.
And then I like dug into it, and like I have read it very carefully because of course it's signed, and I'm like a fanatic. Everybody who knows me, like my signed copies are all on my shelf. Like I can't open it too much. And this
I
one,
get
like you can see, I mean, it's dog eared.
it.
It's not a
Yeah.
signed copy,
Yeah.
because I got so excited when Stone and Tide came out that I thought I was also ordering a signed one of this one, and I ordered two of that one. So
That
you
was
know,
you. Okay.
isn't that hilarious? Like,
It's happened a few
really?
times.
Do
I
I have a stalker? Is probably what you were thinking, right?
No, no, no. Usually what we assume is that somebody's buying one for themselves and a friend. Like,
Right.
like we'll just make one purchase, pay once for shipping, whatever. Yeah, totally get it. And
Yeah.
then they share
Yeah.
with a friend. But we've had a few where it's like,
Yeah.
oh, they
That's
just bought two. Okay, wonderful. Thank you. You're wonderful.
yeah. I was like, wait a minute, what happened? I have two shippings coming. Whatever, that's me.
Yeah,
It's fine.
I do too.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. But the preludes are pretty interesting because, and I've been telling everybody about this because
Yeah.
I've never seen it done before. And once I think authors catch wind, you're going to be like, hey, that was my idea.
Yeah.
So, the preludes I love because, and I have to tell you that I love Rallowin's Prelude 5. That
Yeah.
one I absolutely loved, and I didn't read it till after.
Yeah.
I read them after instead of before.
Sure. Yeah.
So for our members watching or rewatching, um, the preludes tell a little bit about the characters or the pre-story almost. And I just love that. And I love the scene in the book where Rallowin and the bear come across Merrick. And he's my
Yeah.
favorite character,
Oh,
honestly.
nice.
And I don't know if that's because, Merrick is actually a family name of ours.
Yeah,
It's
great.
middle names. And so, but I just love the bond between him and the falcon. And then you get that story and what the connection was with the bear. And so the preludes really give you that little extra. So were
Yeah.
these always a thought? Or were you like, hey, people are going to want to know a little bit more. Let's add this too. Because it's really book 0.
Yeah, right. So, I never actually thought we were going to print these. the Preludes collection. I wasn't actually sure that was going to be a thing. What ended up happening was I wrote Stone and Sky, and I had so much fun. And I knew there was going to be 2 other books, in the trilogy. I knew that from the get-go.
Right.
But there were these characters that I had so much fun with in Stone and Sky. When I was writing them, I thought to myself, I really want some more time with these guys. So I'm going to write some preludes with these guys. And so, having read them, but other people will find out that a lot of the characters in the preludes aren't like huge characters in Stone and Sky, but then they actually become really big characters in the second book and moving forward. So like you get a lot of love with some of these characters in the preludes collection. I wrote them after I wrote Stone and Sky.
Oh, wow.
And I just thought, how cool would it be to see like what was happening with this person, like this character right here. But you said Rallowin. What was happening with Rallowin right before we see her in chapter whatever it is? I can't remember. I know it's in here somewhere. Right before chapter 13, right?
Yeah.
13. And that was one of the fun things I got to do with the collection. I didn't actually do that with, when I was sending them out, because I send out the preludes for free to people who join my readers list. And so they can read the ebook version of each of the stories just separately. So they're not a whole collection. But that was one of the really cool things I got to do with the collection was I got to put a little note in each of the preludes to say, hey, read this one before chapter 13, because that's when you're going to meet her. And this is what happens. I mean, moments before you meet her in the book. And I just thought it would be so fun to explore what was happening with each of these characters right before we meet them in the book. Like Tobin, you only get 2 chapters with Tobin in the whole book, but he's such a fun, lovable character and annoying sometimes. I totally understand. But I loved him. He was so fun to write
because we all have that friend,
and he's so not me. Like I'm generally speaking very quiet among my friends. When there's a group of people, I'm very quiet. One-on-one, I'm fine. But man, so Tobin just like go, and he was so fun to write because he was so not me. And so I was like, man, I love this guy. I want more time with him. What are we gonna do? We're gonna go write a story about what was he doing moments before we meet him in the book.
It's like the fly on the wall kind of thing, right? The spy before it happens. Like you want to know it's brilliant, really. I loved that part of it. Because it's, I think, so rare. And I love that you did name it Zero, even though like now I know you wrote it after, right? That's pretty cool. There's not a lot of books like that. So what does the writing process look like for you? I watched your live TikTok the other night, so I know a little bit about it, but it's always fascinating to people who either want to be writers or, are thinking about it. Like, are you a planner or are you a fly by the seat of your pants kind of guy?
Right. Yeah. So there's usually 2 camps, or at least that's what they say, right? There's 2 camps. There's the pantser who flies by the seat of his pants, or there's the planner who plans out every iota and every detail of every book. I kind of fall in the middle a little bit. I started off as a pantser. With Stone and Sky, because I'd never written a full-length novel before, and so I had written all short stories, short, punchy, 1-2 punch, like great fun stories, but telling a full story in a very short amount of time and a very short space. And so starting writing my first full-length novel, I'm going from writing 3,000 to 10,000 words to 121,000 words. And so I was kind of like, I don't know what I'm doing. So I just started going on this adventure. I came up with a fun idea and I was like, let's go on an adventure. Let's do it. So we started going on an adventure. And then I started meeting other characters as we got a glimpse into Whitestone, what was happening with the Griffin Guard and the King in Whitestone. And then we got a glimpse of what was happening with the orcs over in Calrock or in Drellic. And all of a sudden things started coming together. And I was like, oh, this is way bigger. This is great. And then I got about halfway through writing Stone and Sky. I'd say right there, about halfway through Stone and Sky. And I realized I knew where I wanted to go with it, but I realized, oh my gosh, I, I don't know how I'm going to get everybody to the right spots at the right time. Everybody's got to get there at the same time. So, okay, I really need to start plotting some of this out to
Right.
actually make some sense of it. And so I learned through the process of writing Stone and Sky. And then when it came to Stone and Tide, it was a different ballgame. Uh, when it came to writing Stone and Tide, I plotted the whole book out. I went chapter by chapter. I don't go crazy with the details like a
Right.
lot of people will. They'll plot out dialogue and they'll plot out like everything. They're basically writing the book twice, and I don't get that. I try
Yeah.
not to do work twice if I don't have to.
Right.
That's what editing is for. I'll deal with it later.
Exactly.
Um, but I'll plot like very specific. Okay, this detail. If these three characters are in this chapter together, they have to be at this point at the end of this chapter because everybody's going to come together here. So
Right.
we got to make sure that our timing lines up, and so everybody winds up in the same spot where they're supposed to be at the right
Yeah.
time. And so it's more like markers, right? So like
Mm,
road markers. It's each chapter I go, okay, at the end of this chapter, they got to be here. I don't know how they're going to get there. We're going to figure
right.
that out as we write. So I still get to
Yeah.
discover. I still get to have fun. I kind of talk about it like a sandbox, right?
Yeah.
A sandbox is only a sandbox because it has a railing, right? And it keeps all the sand in. And because there are guide rails for the sand to keep it all in, you have this wonderful place to play.
Oh
But
yeah.
if you don't have the railings, you're just sitting in the desert. Who wants to be in
Yeah.
the desert?
And or the sand is going
Right.
everywhere, right?
Exactly. Or you're just
I mean,
just blowing all over the place and you're causing problems for yourself and
catch,
others.
yeah, catch 22. So what was really cool about this book is the different races of characters and how typically, like, I have an issue with orcs, and I think maybe that's because the Lord of the Rings is
Sure.
one of
We
my
all have issues with
favorites of
orcs.
all time. Right. And then, even when Legends and Lattes came out, I was like, do I want to read this? I have an issue with
Eh,
orcs,
right, right. Yeah.
But what's really cool about Stone and Sky is your orcs are actually like characters that have feelings and
Yeah.
families,
They're
and you
people.
hear about like their connections, and in all reality the themes in this book really are family and
Mhm.
friends and doing the right thing even if someone else doesn't want you to. And
Sure.
that's a huge thing right now in society that,
Yeah.
I think even middle school kids could get a ton out of this book, even
Totally.
though I don't believe it's YA. um
Yeah.
but
No, definitely written for a trade audience. But
yeah,
obviously, you've read it, so you know it's clean. I was very careful about the way
I
I
love
wrote it
that.
to make sure that there was no coarse language, there was no
Yeah,
sex
love
or
that.
gratuitous violence. Of course, there's sword battles and stuff, but there's
Yeah.
not blood and guts,
No,
spilling out of people, right?
classic epic
Yeah,
fantasy. So Jamie, one of the other admins, asked in the chat,
yeah,
"What's an orc?" Jamie reads tons and tons of romance and nonfiction and thrillers, and so
sure,
I'm
yeah,
slowly introducing all of the admin team into fantasy and
yeah.
historical fiction and all those kinds of things. So here's the cover of Stone and Tide. Jamie, I don't know if you can see it, but orcs are kind of these creatures that are green typically.
Mhm.
Although in Tolkien's, there are a whole bunch of
There's some debate over
funky
there.
shades. I know, but
People
typically
have
in
had far
fantasy,
too many years to study Tolkien's work
I
and
know.
dissect everything. So,
Yeah, I know it, right? But orcs are typically the bad guys. In all reality, in fantasy, they really are. And
yeah.
one of my favorite parts of this book is on page 380. And it's where Merrick and Karnak have a
Hmm.
conversation about Rora, and
Yeah.
how, like, Karnak was ready to, I don't want to spoil it, but he was ready for something bad to happen.
Yeah.
And instead, Merrick looked at him and was like, "This is my name. You know, we have a bigger cause. And boy, I wish people would do that. And
Yeah.
it gave you this other side of orcs. Cause I mean, in all reality, I'm a teacher, I teach third grade. And so
Yeah.
I talk to kids about bullies all the time. And in historical fiction, in all reality, orcs are the bad guys. And so it's nice to see
Yeah.
in your book that you really made the orcs rethink
Sure.
some of
Yeah.
what they wanted to do. So
Yeah.
that's pretty cool. Um, who are some of the characters modeled after? Anybody?
That's great. I people ask me that question a lot. If I've got like friends or frenemies that I
Yeah.
write about,
Yeah.
yeah, totally get it. I hear you. I get it. It's funny because even my wife, she reads into characters and she's like,
Uh-huh.
hey, so that's kind of like so and so, and I'm like, I mean, I guess I didn't really think about that,
Yeah.
but so
That's
even she
funny.
does it, but she knows all the people I know, so she reads into it as other people.
Yeah, yeah.
But I can genuinely say that relations or what did I put in the copyright page? Something about something about names, characters, places, and incidents
Mhm.
are all either
Yeah.
any resemblance of actual people's. I can
Yeah, yeah.
genuinely say that any resemblance is purely coincidental
It's awesome.
because honestly, I most of the time when I write characters, so I just started a new book, and it's the first book outside of the Stone and Sky series, which I'm really excited about. I've been writing in it the last few days. I'm already like a tenth of the way through, or like
Oh, wow.
15% of the way through, and I'm like, yeah, all right, cool. But most of the time when I'm starting a book, I've only got a few characters that I know.
Right.
So these are the guys I'm starting with. This is who I know. The rest of the characters kind of come as we write, as we
Yeah.
discover, as we meet them. When the character, like our main character in the book, when they meet a character, I'm meeting that character at the same
Yeah.
time. And so it's really fun because they kind of surprise me as I get to write them. And then all of a sudden I have all these extra ideas. And that's why
That's
you have
awesome.
something like the Preludes collection, because I
Yeah.
met these characters while I was writing the book. And then I was like, these characters are awesome. What were they doing before? And then I run
Yeah.
back and go figure out what they were doing before. And I genuinely, that's how most of the characters come to be.
Yeah. Do you ever like walk out of your office? Because I'm assuming you're in your office writing
Yeah.
area,
Yeah.
with a
Yeah.
huge, awesome bookcase in the back. Like I've
Thank
seen your
you.
TikToks, and I'm like, check that out. I mean, I have that in my bedroom's become my office
Yeah.
library because it's my quiet space. But I keep adding bookshelves as well.
Yes.
Do you
Yes.
ever like leave your writing time and go out into like your kitchen or living room and go, where's Cole? Where's Dan or Kane? Shouldn't they be here? Like, where are they? Are you like, how is it coming back to reality? Because when you have characters that are so fun, like Tobin and Cole, and like just the whole like sleeping on the boat and like all this stuff, like
Yeah.
I'd want to go out into my living room and be like, hey, where are you guys?
Yeah.
you know,
Totally. I
is that
I
ever hard?
totally understand what you're saying, because yeah, I wrote I wrote these books first and foremost because I wanted to take these adventures. And
Yeah.
I wanted to hang out with these characters. I wanted to go out on the Lady Layla and ride on the boat with Cole and Azil, and
Yep.
hang out on the Pelori River. I wanted to go and see what was happening in Lorelith, the city of the elves, and what Master Tenlian was doing in the Wisdom Tower over there. I
Yeah.
wanted to see those things, and so yeah, I love these characters,
Yeah.
especially characters like Cole and Azil, who are so vibrant, and they're
Yeah.
always talking about their past, and they're always talking about these events and things that
Yeah.
have happened, and most of the people in the world don't believe them, but I
Yeah.
know that it's true because
Yeah.
I've got plans, so
Yep.
it's so
Yeah.
fun. I know these characters as real in a way because I know who they are. I know where they've been.
Yeah.
I know what they've done. I know their motivations. I know where they want to go. And yeah, I want to hang out with them too.
Yeah. It's to me, it's such a treat and so rare when you find a book that you want to hang out with the characters for a long time. Um, as a reader, I think that's really cool. When you are reading for pleasure, is it fantasy or do you read other genres too?
Yeah, I read a lot of genres actually. Like I said, I've actually written in a lot of horror and
Yeah.
literary fiction and sci-fi. Um, you probably can't see. Oh, maybe you can. So that shelf right there is filled with Star Trek books, only
Oh,
Star
cool.
Trek books. And then there's another one next to it that's also only filled with Star Trek books. So I do read a lot
Ah,
of sci-fi. I've got
that's
some.
awesome.
I got thrillers and westerns, and I've got action packed books. I read kind of all over the place
That's
because I
awesome.
really enjoy. I just enjoy reading in
Yeah,
general,
me
and
too.
a good adventure and a good story. I see you've got Rust Colored Rain back there, and that's
Oh, next.
Otto's newest book, and
So,
Otto's great too. I've got like two shelves, these two right here going across. Those are both filled with all of my author friends' books, who have sent me their books, and Otto's on there too. And
well,
I
I think
love it. Just all over the place.
I think as an indie author, like places like Instagram and TikTok are like these really cool world opening places that really need to be seen as this positive thing because book talk is incredible. I mean, and I love how authors are promoting other authors. I've seen it with
Oh,
yours. I've
totally.
seen it with Otto's. I get to talk to Otto next week, and I
Yeah,
actually found his book through
he's
you.
great. Yeah,
And then today I actually got Sword and Thistle, which you had this out in one of your, because I
yeah,
mean, once you start
yeah.
following an
Steven's
author and
great.
talking to them, everything pops up.
Yeah,
And so I was thrilled that this came today,
yeah.
because
Steven's awesome.
these are like, I think for people who are intimidated by fantasy or even by dystopian, books like these are like great, good gateway books to get into
Sure. Yeah.
love fantasy.
Yeah. Very
Um,
approachable. Yeah.
yeah, and I don't understand why more authors aren't doing boxings like you are or like Otto is,
Yeah.
because, you know, it would be so cool to go into major bookstores to get your book and have it come in this amazing box,
Yeah.
packed beautifully. Um, it just needs to happen more because it's the coolest thing. So,
We're
for those
trying
of
to
you,
pioneer some things.
well, I can't imagine the cost of it in all reality
It's
because I
it's a
I love
lot.
that you use Kickstarters for that because I
Yeah.
think more authors should really go the indie route, and I would imagine
Mhm.
it's really difficult because we know publishing is hard anyway.
Oh yeah.
Um, but like the boxes are cool. I
Yeah.
love the tea. I love the maps. I love all of those kinds of things.
Yeah.
If you ever want stainless steel tumblers, I print those. um,
That's awesome.
but like it's fun. So I
Yeah.
love where, that book talk community is going with all of that.
I think
Um
it's a vibe too, though. I know for us,
yeah.
for me, I wanted to create, obviously, as a new author, as somebody that nobody knew about. This time last year, nobody knew my name, right? So,
Yeah.
the idea was to create something that was special, that would set us
Yeah.
apart, that would be exciting for people to open and share. And I wanted to set the tone early so that when you open a signed
Yeah.
box from me, I want you to open it and immediately you're transported. You open it and there's this
Yeah.
wax sealed uh, envelope with a
Yep.
special note from me. And then we've got all sorts of things from the world, like tea, and we've got that's right. We got the map in there. We got we got all sorts of goodies in
Yeah.
there just to transport you into a place where I want to set the tone that this is going to be fun and it's going to be a
Well,
fantasy adventure, and I want it
yeah.
to be fun right from the second you open the box.
Well, and book people love bookmarks. They love stickers.
Sure,
They
yeah,
love all of this tchotchke bookish stuff. So
yeah,
what a cool like niche thing, to have,
yeah.
especially I think as a fantasy author. It's really cool.
And
Um
I write a lot about food for some reason. So I think I might be always hungry when I'm writing. So there are so many food, like there's so
yeah,
many people eating food in
yeah.
my fantasy worlds. And so it
Uh-huh.
was just natural we're like, let's put some recipes in. We're gonna put some of the book
Yeah.
recipes. It has to happen because there's so much food in this.
Yeah,
Why?
so
Why did
it's
I write
so
so
cool.
much food?
Well, even towards the end where they're all like celebrating, right? So and so has, a piece of beef jerky or, whatever
Yeah,
jerky. And I was
yeah,
thinking, honestly, the secret weapon jerky, as
yeah.
they
The
were eating. And
secret
then someone
weapon
just
jerky.
walks by and like takes it and walks off. And I'm like, that's hilarious. Um,
I'm
like
so glad
friends
you
do
like that
that.
because I was listening to that. Well, we got the audiobook version for review, and we've been listening to it for the last couple of weeks, and we just listened to that part again. And there are parts in the book that make me chuckle because I thought they were funny when I wrote them, and so
Yeah.
even if nobody else did, I thought they were funny. So it's nice to hear that somebody else thought
Yeah,
they were funny.
it's hilarious. Hey, Jamie, Jamie's in the chat. She's our other admin. I'm going to answer your questions, Jamie, in a couple minutes because I see her asking questions. She's not a fantasy reader, so she's got some
Oh,
questions
we
too.
got lots of
Um,
questions then.
I know. What are you currently reading?
Yeah, you know what? It's funny I was so ready for this question too. Look at me go. Okay, so I put it on my desk thinking just in case they ask me because
Yep.
I've done a number of podcasts and they always ask me what I'm reading and I'm like, oh no, it's on my nightstand. I keep leaving it up there. Okay, so currently I'm about halfway through this guy right here, which is called Son of a Sailor. I was gonna post on. My stuff is so bright. I know. There it goes. A Son of a
That's a pretty
Sailor
color.
by my friend Marshall J. Moore, and it is a cozy pirate fantasy.
Oh,
So very interesting
nice.
so far. I'm having a lot of fun with it. Enjoying that. I'm listening to Magician Apprentice by Raymond Feist, excuse me, and it is it's the first book in the Rift War saga. So that's it's an old one. I think 90s, early 90s. That one came out. So I'm listening to that one as well. And then I'm listening to Michael R. Miller's Ascendant book. It's the first book in the Songs of Chaos series. And I'm listening to that one with the kids on the way to school.
Oh,
So
how
I'm
fun.
constantly in like 4 to 5 books. I've also got a
Me
graphic
too.
novel that I've got going right now,
Me
and
too. Me too. Me too.
they're all different formats usually, so
Yep.
I could keep them separate usually, but
Yeah. I love audiobooks, but I find that I'm on the phone so much that I don't always have time for them, which is interesting. And
totally.
um a lot of times when I'm on the phone, because my girlfriend and I don't live together, so we're often on the phone, sometimes doing our own thing. Like last night, she's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Reading." Like
Eh,
that's the typical thing, right? And
yeah.
I always have like
What
four
are
or
you?
five
I'm
books going
always
at
doing.
once. And yeah, and one's a band book, one's a graphic novel, because there's some pretty awesome graphic novels out for adults right
Oh,
now.
totally. Yeah.
Um, so that's pretty fun. All right. So before I answer questions, I was telling you before we came live, I love Would You Rather. I try to fit it in as many book
Yeah.
talks as I can. I think it's so much fun. And I don't know, just puts
Well,
a
you're
little
gonna
bit of
ask me
play in
hard
these.
ones, aren't you? Okay, I'm ready.
Probably. And I'm going to apologize ahead of time. So, right out the gate, would you rather fly on a dragon or a griffin?
I knew you were gonna ask that. I gotta go. I gotta go with a griffin. I have to. I just
I know.
have to. It would be so awesome, and I think they're just
I
so
know.
much more maneuverable, and they're smaller, and we can really do some really kind of cool aerial acrobatics with them that we couldn't do with a
Yeah.
dragon. So
That's,
totally
I
a
think,
griffin.
same thing.
In
Same thing.
battle, maybe not against a dragon, but
No.
it's just,
Yeah. I mean,
but
yeah.
what are you gonna do?
But I mean, yeah, I think the griffin thing is just so cool. What about a griffin versus Pegasus?
Ooh, that. Oh man. Okay, I didn't know you were gonna take it to another level.
I have to because you have them in your book and it's
Oh,
amazing.
that's so good. Okay, if you asked me after writing book one, I would have said Griffin all the way. Now
Okay.
that you're asking me after I've written book 3 in the series,
Oh,
oh, it would be a Pegasus. It'd be Pegasus.
Oh, I can't wait till that book comes out.
So
So
cool.
I just noticed in the chat my mother's here watching.
Yeah.
Hi, mom.
Hey, hey,
Um,
mom.
often she calls me afterwards after I talk to her because sometimes I throw her under the bus for things. My mom does not read fantasy, so I'll have to get her into that.
Mom, come on.
We read a lot of historical fiction together. All right, next one. Would you rather be on a hero's journey or in a rebellion plot?
Mm. That's funny because I feel like I cheated and threw both of those in.
You did. You did. It's like
Okay.
asking you to choose sides, which I think is probably almost impossible, but I'm going to make you choose one.
Okay. I gotta go on the hero's journey, just for the pure fact that you get to meet so many interesting people along the way.
Yeah, and you can find out too who's going to help you and who's going to switch
Totally.
sides
Yeah.
because that's what happens in Stone and Sky. Like it's totally unexpected and I went, "Wait, what?" I love that. That was cool. All right. If
I
you
hear
could
that a lot, that I threw a
Yeah.
lot of people a wrench, that they were like, wait, what? Why
Yeah.
every time I think I know what you're going to do, then you don't do it. You do something else. Oh, well,
Yeah,
okay.
because people
I just
aren't
thought it would be
typically
cool.
it is wicked cool and it doesn't happen all the time, right? All right, next one. If you could only be allies with one, who would you rather be allies with, elves or dwarves?
Oh, okay. This one, I've got to be real with you. This one's easy for me.
Oh yeah?
Dwarves all the way. I'm with the
Yeah.
dwarves all the way. They're just
So,
too much fun to hang out with. Elves can get all snooty, and the dwarves are going to be so
yes,
much fun.
that's what I think the same thing. Totally. And like they're they're like softies in this hard, like brutish body,
Yes,
you
yes,
know?
yes. The
Their
book,
hearts are like
the book
mush,
I
you
started
know?
writing a couple of days ago. Dwarf main character. It's going to be so much fun.
Oh,
Yes.
sweet. Yay. I think of Gimli, you know? Because I'm a huge Lord of the Rings fan. So when I saw you love The Hobbit, I was
So
like,
much fun.
ah, right up, right up my alley. All right. Would you rather have the ability to transform into anything or teleport to anywhere?
Ooh, transform into anything. Now there's no limits. Anything is anything.
I said anything.
So I
Yeah,
could, I mean,
anything.
so if I gotta turn into an eagle to fly over there, I mean, I could do that. I could turn
Yeah.
into a giant eagle. I could turn into a dragon
Yeah.
and fly over there. I mean, it
Uh-huh.
still takes time. I'm gonna say transform. I like transform. Teleport is good. That would be sick because then it'd just be like, boop, I'm there.
Yep.
But transform would be awesome because then you get to fly.
Yeah, and I was thinking teleport with the whole mirror thing in the book,
Oh yeah.
and everyone's gonna have to read it to find out what that whole
Oh,
thing is, but I was like and then when you find out where they are, I'm like so I was like, would I wanna transform or teleport?" Like, I don't know. Like, you could be in
I
Paris 1 second, but then on the other hand, I don't know. I don't know how long it would take
it's
by griffin
true.
flight to get there, you know?
I'll have to do some math on that and get back to you. So,
Alright, awesome. Gotta answer that in the next prelude. All right. Would you rather be the power behind the throne or the champion of the people?
ooh, I that I would want to be the champion of the people.
Me too.
I know this because I've worked in jobs where I have had to be the power behind the throne, per
Mm,
se, and it is a
yeah.
difficult position that doesn't allow you to champion for the people, especially when you want to, and when you're trying to do the right thing.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can't, and you're not without, and then eventually you have to say, okay, I'm out because I can't do the right thing. You won't
Yep.
let me. So I would rather be the champion for the
Yep.
people because then I have the power and the authority to actually champion for the people.
That's awesome. I love that. I think more people need to be championing for the people. All right, one last one. Would you rather be the protector of a dangerous magical artifact or have to destroy that magical artifact?
Ooh. I got to be the protector. I got to be the protector. For me, it's so difficult because everything is historical in a way. And for
Yeah.
me, it's just like, this is such an important piece of history that shouldn't
Right.
be forgotten.
Right.
Sure, it needs to be protected. Sure, it needs to be like not available to people, but
Right.
we shouldn't forget about this. So
Yeah.
I'm about protecting it and making sure we close it off and do what we got to do.
Yeah. There's so many books where I was really thinking about this question in because I've seen it in Lightlark, I've seen it in Hogwarts Legacy when I was playing that on the
Sure.
PS4. Like there's all, you get to choose this path. Would you protect it or would you destroy it? And Hogwarts Legacy makes you choose.
Yeah, sure.
Um are you
Sometimes
gonna
video games are mean like that.
Yeah. And then I'm like, okay, I want to go play it again so I can choose the other path to see
Yeah,
what
just to
happens.
see what happens. Yeah.
Because you know it's not going to be
I'm going to
good, but
spend another 18 hours going through this game just so I can see the other side of this.
Oh, way more than that.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I just
That
love
was
that
a
stuff.
generous
Oh,
low ball.
yeah. Well, or even, like Frodo trying to destroy the ring and, that you
Sure.
got this, you got Gandalf trying to protect it and not like
Get it.
there's so and
Yeah.
what you got going on in your book. Like I was totally thrown wait a minute, is there more than one? And where are they?
Yeah.
And where is that coming? And I'll be honest, I haven't read Stone and Tide yet because I did not want to muddle up and start talking about that
Yeah,
one too, because then I
totally.
can have you back once I read
Sure. I
that
can't
one.
wait. I
Um,
can't wait because everybody keeps telling me Stone and Tide is way better. And I'm like, great news.
and And I'll be honest, I'm kind of thrilled that I have two because that way, if one gets all like marked up, it's okay. Because,
Benefits, happy
t-
accidents.
totally, totally, totally. Because I'm not the preludes. I'm like, okay, little bookmark,
It's
and
okay.
I'm not
You're
afraid to,
okay.
I know, I'm not afraid of dog ear. This one
Yeah.
has dog ears.
You
I'll admit.
monster.
I know, right? Right. I love posting that on Instagram. Which one of these is you? I'm all of these, and everyone's like, "You're evil."
You're
I
a
love it.
monster.
Yep. Do you dog ear your
Oh,
books?
absolutely not. I'm a hero.
Oh
Okay.
no!
I'm a
That's
hero
awesome.
of the people. Okay.
Do you ever annotate as you
You
read?
know what? It's funny. That's no, I don't.
Okay.
Unless it's a book specifically designed for learning, so educational
Got it.
purposes. Totally fine. That's a different ball
Yeah.
game.
Yeah.
Studying is a different ball game.
I'm evil with that too because I'm moved by so many quotes in books that
Oh yeah.
tend to underline and write in them unless it's a signed edition. That's
I
different.
wish,
Um,
I wish I could bring myself to do that because boy, I would remember a lot more quotes.
I think my students like flip out. They're like, oh, Miss Schoonover, you're writing in your
How could
book.
you do
What do
that?
you do it? And I'm like, this is meaningful though, and I want to talk to you about it as we're
Yeah,
reading because I teach lit circle model, and so a
great.
lot of times the kids are exposed to all these genres, and they can't write in their book, but boy, I'll give them transparent post-its to write in them.
Hey, that's
So
educational purposes right there. I get it. There
exactly.
you go.
But
That counts.
when there's quotes like on page 380 that says perhaps there's a future for us to hope toward yet, that's meaningful because right now in the world we really need that.
Yeah,
And so those are the kinds of things that I'll dog ear and I'll write or I'll tab.
yeah.
Um
I have
and
my
I
editors mark highlight
yeah.
quotes so that I can put them in a different Word document so I don't
Yeah,
forget.
well, that's cool because, like it's a good I would think it's a good memory thing too to have, what did my editor say about this and am
Mhm.
I going to truly change it or not? Are there times when your editors are going through things you're like, yeah, no, I'm not changing that.
Oh, sure,
I
yeah,
stick to it.
definitely. That's one of the best parts about being an indie author is that I have
Yeah.
the creative control to write the
Yeah.
story that I want to write. Look,
Yeah.
editing is a great thing, and I'm going to need editors. I have three that do all of my books. They go. I get it back from one of them. I go through all her edits. I send it off to the next one.
Awesome.
Get it back from her. Go through all her edits. Send it off to the next one.
Yeah.
And so there is a purpose for edits. However, the purpose for edits should be to help you make it clearer right?
Right.
Not necessarily change your story. And unfortunately, in the traditional publishing space, a lot of times editors will force you to change your story for marketability. And
Yeah.
that didn't sit right for me. So I was like, no, we're going indie. I'm going to go write the book that
Yeah.
I wanted to write that will
Yeah.
bring joy and hopefully hope to people's lives. So that's what I'm going to do.
And it worked because it's won lots of awards,
It has. Yeah. I've
which is
been
pretty exciting.
just blown
Yeah.
away. Really grateful for the love that we've seen for Stone and Sky.
That's
It's been so
that's
wonderful.
that's pretty cool. So the next one comes out. I think I heard you say June something.
Yep, June 4th. Yep.
June
The
4th.
the
So
third book, it's coming. The third full-length novel, it's coming. It's actually called Stone and Ruin, which is really
ah,
exciting. I was supposed to write a email to my readers list today and show off the cover, but I guess I'm going to do that tomorrow because sometimes I'm a day behind. But I'm going to show off the cover tomorrow
oh yeah.
to the readers list, and then after that, I can start showing it off to everywhere else. Although it's not a very well
Hey.
kept secret, so if you go digging around, you can actually find it. So it's
Well, you know I'm probably going to.
yeah, it's
June
not
4th.
hard
Well,
to
yay.
find.
That'll be a really cool early birthday present for me. Um,
Yeah,
'Cause that's cool, and I'll have all of them, and then we'll have to have you back
so
on too
exciting.
because that's so awesome. So share with everybody your upcoming Kickstarters because boy, your Kickstarter for the audiobook like blew up and
Yeah,
was done in no time at all. And
yeah.
so what do you have coming up?
Yeah, so exciting. So we just finished, just wrapped up the Kickstarter for the audiobook versions. And not only did we get the audiobook version funded for Stone and Sky, but we did for the Preludes collection and Stone and Tide as well. So
Yeah.
we were able to raise enough funds for all three of these, which is phenomenal. And the audiobooks are coming along beautifully. Our narrator is insanely talented. I'm so excited. That's all
Yeah.
really exciting. But the next Kickstarter is we're gonna actually launch it in April is the plan. So we're launching that in April, and it's going to be leading up to the release of Stone and Ruin, and that one's going to be really focused on Stone and Ruin as a whole.
Right.
Hardcover special editions and the hardcover signed editions, excuse me, and the audiobook as well for Stone and Ruin. So the idea is hopefully that we'll be able to accomplish that one and the audiobook prior to release. So ready
Yeah.
for release when Stone and Ruin comes out, which would be the first audiobook that we've had ready for release of a book as
Yeah.
well. So
It's
that's
so
been the goal, to work towards that.
right.
And then of course we'll have the next one probably in August for the book that comes after that, which
That's cool. So cool. And it's a totally new series, but set in the same world.
so the one that we're aiming for, so there's actually a little bit of wiggle room right now, a little bit of debate as to which one we're going to release. I think we're looking
Oh.
at September, October for the
Oh,
release of this next book that we're working on.
how
And
exciting.
so there's a little debate of which one it's going to be.
Right.
Because I have an agent that's trying to get a hold of the book I'm writing right now. And so we have to debate whether we want to go that route or not. But if it's going to be that book is it's a standalone book that
Oh.
it's a cozy fantasy set in the same
Oh.
world of Finlistia, and
Oh, fun.
may or may not see some familiar faces along the way. So totally standalone though, cozy
Mm,
fantasy. That's the one I'm working on right now. It's really cool.
that
Honestly, I love it. It's got so much heart, and it's all plotted out and everything else. It's going to be very, very sweet.
I love that. And I picked up what you put down. I
Yeah.
hope my favorites are in there. All right. Just want to look through the chat. So Jamie asked, do the books come signed? So I'm going to let you answer that because
Sure.
I do
Yeah.
know the
Yeah, so they do if you order them from us. So you can order signed copies from us on my website at zsdiamanti.com, or you can order signed copies from us through. Actually, you can do it through our Instagram shop and our TikTok shop. So if you're on either of those ones are signed, and those are the ones that we put together. Those are the ones that you see right here. They come right off of the shelf. Take them in the other room, start signing away. I've got a stack, I think, of like 30 in the other room right now. That as soon as we're done, I'm going to go sign those so we can get them ready and get them off. But those ones all do come signed. If you order them from like Amazon or Barnes and Noble or anywhere else, they won't be signed. They'll be just whatever Amazon prints and ships off to you.
Yeah. So this one's not signed because they were sold out when I went to go order it the first time. So I couldn't wait. I went through Amazon, and then like 2 days later, you had them back in stock. And I was like, oh, but that's okay.
Sometimes it happens. It
totally happens. And that's super exciting for you, in all reality.
It's hard to always keep stock. We try. But it also takes books a couple of weeks to print and ship to us. And then by the time we get them and we can finally put them in stock, sometimes we have a video that does really well, and all of a sudden we're sold out again, and we're like, oh no, the next batch isn't going to be here for another 2 weeks. So
what's really cool too is you're keeping a map of where everybody's buying from, which is really cool. And I was in your live on TikTok the other night, and people were asking, when are you going to put my pin in? When are you going to put my pin in? I would imagine like that's probably so hard to like keep up with, because
it's so hard.
Like you've got a lot of followers.
It is. That is probably one of the most difficult things to keep up with is the pin map. So much so that to the point where we are almost over 1,000 pins on this map.
Wow.
And
cool.
we're debating it may be almost time to retire that map and start a new map for Stone and Tide. So that's kind of what we've been thinking. It's tough because, man, when you get 30 orders, you got to sign today, but then you got to make a map for that. Like you got to make a video for that, and then you got to edit all those videos, and then
time consuming.
I mean, times almost 1,000 at this point. It's tough.
And then when you get the crazy people that buy 2, and you're like, Chicopee, Massachusetts, what is this?
Like, no, just get 2 pins, get ready.
It's so funny. So I'm going through the comments. It's hilarious. So
sure.
I'm going to put this up. This one is funny too, because I don't see who it is, and if they don't accept the StreamYard, whatever, in our Facebook group. This is actually my second mother, mom number 2, which is funny. And my mom's best friend.
Hey, mom, number 2.
Diane. So that's funny that they're both in here. Let's see. So Jamie asked the book sign thing.
That's awesome. My mom doesn't watch any of my podcasts, so.
Oh, that's funny. My mom loves that. And then my dad texts me because every once in a while they say that I'm throwing them under the bus. I don't mean to. But so Jamie said she's going to get them now, and she's not a fantasy reader. So that's pretty awesome. And her other comment was Jamie loves when an audiobook is a good narrator, and I listen to snippets. Your narrator is pretty fabulous. So
he is
that's cool.
Fantastic. Honestly, after just one of my sons, he's not a huge reader. It's not his jam, right? And we listened to the whole audiobook because we got the review version, the version where you sit down and with your notebook and you write down any like little quirks, or if you mispronounced a word, or maybe he said something weird, or maybe the audio had a funky fluke or something. So you're listening for the whole 13 and a half hours of the book, and you're finding any little quirky things that you got to write down and send back to him so he can go and fix them, right? And we listened to the whole thing as a family. And that son, my third son, he after listening to the whole book, he immediately went and grabbed Stone and Tide, and on the first day he read the first 50 pages, which is more pages than this kid has ever read in one day in his entire life. And so we were just like totally thrilled. I'm like, man, hopefully he's enjoying reading it as much as he enjoyed listening to it.
That's
The
awesome.
audiobook is good. It's good.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. That's fabulous. Do your kids ever look at you and be like, "Okay, Dad, like, can you, tell Oren he's got to go back to the Griffin Guard right now?" Um, or are do they give you ideas for your books?
It's funny because I don't actually, they don't get to touch it until it's done.
Yeah,
They don't
that's
get to
cool.
touch it until it's done. My wife actually gets to read it. She gets to read it first,
Yeah,
because she's very good at developmental style editing. So she thinks very well on finding things that maybe I missed, or maybe I said somebody's hair was red, and then later I said their hair was brown, and she's like, you missed that, and I'm like, oh man, okay, good catch.
yeah,
She's very good at finding those things, or saying, hey, I love that where you were going with this, but then it feels like you didn't really kind of like close it off over here. So uh, are you going to do that? Is that in the next book or what? Right. So she gets to ask all of those questions, which is really cool. So she's
nice.
really the only one that like gets to read it when it's like pretty messy. Like,
Yeah,
here you go. Here's my couple of drafts. Enjoy. You get to read it pretty messy. But then after
yeah,
that, it's pretty much nobody else really gets it until all the edits are done. So,
yeah. That's cool.
yeah.
I love that. Um, I think this is Diane. Love this. Yeah. It's pretty great. Thank you so much for coming on and playing Would You Rather with me. I hope it
Yeah.
wasn't too torturous.
No, you had some
um,
good ones. You had some good ones.
I I love those kinds of questions because man, like you think you know your characters and you love them and you're like, oh wait,
But
did I throw
maybe
that
I don't actually. Yeah,
did I throw that character under the bus a little bit,
yeah, sure.
whatever, throw him to the wolves, or the wyverns in this case, right?
Yeah. Gosh, I
Well,
don't
thank
want to
you.
get eaten by them.
No, no,
No, thank
no.
you.
They no, no, no. I I never want to meet one in the sky, on the
Nope.
ground, in a dark alley,
Anywhere.
ever. Yeah, not even in the zoo. No thanks.
I don't care how nice some of the orcs think they are.
Yeah, yeah, no, I don't think they tamed. Anyway, thank you again for coming on. I
Yeah,
can't wait to read Stone, and Tide, and then I'm
yeah.
gonna be hitting you up in Instagram and being like, "Hey, so let's come back and talk
Can't
about
wait.
this
That'll
one
be
and
a
the next
blast.
one." And then I'll have to come up with some new game.
I'm, I'm sure you'll get some good ones out of that one.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching, and I hope you really enjoyed us talking with Zach. I had a blast. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much.